Good afternoon. Hello. Happy lunchtime. Not going to say Happy New Year. He looks happy, doesn't he? That's Bailey, one of the Doctor Who dogs. He's got a lot to celebrate. He's got the colours out in force there for one person in particular. I think you probably know who I'm talking about. I refuse to say Happy New Year anymore. I'm not sure what the cut-off is. In fact, on that, are you sure? Let me know. Instagram and X at Type40 Doctor Who. What is the cut-off on Happy New Year greetings? I'd say give it 8 days tops. 8 days. So usually I'd say a week, but give people an extra day, sort of an extra day's grace. Hello. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Type40, and welcome back to Bailey there. He's looking well. How do you think he's gone on with his New Year resolutions so far there? Because he seems to look a couple of pounds lighter, doesn't he? So what I want to know is how are you getting on with your New Year resolutions, whether they're Doctor Who related or otherwise? You know, did you resolve, for example, to watch one episode of the show per evening? Maybe two, I don't know. Results may vary and all that. Hello, yeah, welcome back. Thank you for the comments. I'll get to those in a moment or two. Just limbering up. The mouth, the mind, and the body. Yeah, what a frightening thought. Yes, it could be a while to settle in here. And, you know, is that title clickbait? I don't know. Maybe it is. I just like a pun. I like a pun. I like Wallace and Gromit. I like Doctor Who. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it as always. Thank you for joining me for this one. Yes, it's the wrong thinkers, Gromit. We are traditionally, of course, terrible wrong thinkers here at Type 40. So they keep telling me. Yeah, I still get quite a lot of that. Come to think of it, but I love this. He had a good Christmas, didn't he? Wallace. Gromit, I think, seemed to have a good one as well. Christmas was very good. It was very good to Wallace and Gromit, wasn't it? Did you watch Vengeance Most Foul? So yeah, was that the highlight of your Christmas day? I think it was a lot of people's, wasn't it? So people just seem to be watching it on a loop, don't they? It seems to be really entering into the lexicon in the way that the earlier films did. Feathers McGraw back in a big way, and a whole new range of merchandise too. I really do hope that Bad Wolf and Doctor Who are sort of paying attention to everything that Wallace and Gromit have got right, everything that Aardman always seemed to get right, come to think of it. Yeah. It's good to be back. It's good to see you all. Be a busy week here at Type 40 over the next week, funnily enough. So we've been dropping videos here and there. We did continue with the programming over Christmas. Had a blast doing all that. All those extra Type 40 live streams, and there was extra videos and a couple of podcasts and things as well. So we got out our review of Joy to the World, and myself, Charlotte, with Anthony and the fabulous Luke Walters from Cinescope. We sat down, didn't we? And we went through, we relived and rewatched in a couple of cases. I persuaded Anthony. Poor Anthony. Get well soon, Anthony. Anthony's been very crook. I persuaded Anthony to watch it again. Got some comments here. Let's have a look and see who's here. Who's here right away? Shall we say? Oh, the rabbi from another planet. Hey ho! The rabbi's been ill as well. I think there's something going around literally everywhere. Hey ho! Happy New Year. Happy Who Year. New who? New you? That kind of thing. Did you make any resolutions, Rabbi? Let me know. Rob Alexander's here as well. Happy lunchtime, Dan, he says. David Milling's in too. David will be joining me at some point in the future. I don't doubt. Stay tuned for that. Ahoy there, says David. We've got January the 10th, according to Rob, on the that's the curfew, the cut-off for the Happy New Year's. I think you're being very generous. Yeah, that's a day extra than I think I would go with on that. The rabbi says Happy New Year is good until early February. See, there could be a point where if anybody does wish you a Happy New Year, you just sort of knee them in the bollocks or something like that. I don't know. Past a certain point, I think if people are saying it in March, give them a short shift. Give one of these. Happy New Year is fine up until December the 31st, says David. Rob feels sorry for Gromit. He lost his garden. I know, that was bad, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I felt for Gromit as well. Come back to that. I'll come back to that, I don't doubt. A New Year's resolution from a People's Army, a former People's Army, and seize control of the states, suggests the rabbi. Well, there you go. It's good to have something in your bucket list, isn't it? Yeah. Of course, there's Wallace sporting the Doctor Who scarf there, the famous Doctor Who scarf associated with one incarnation of the Doctor in particular that keeps on coming back. We saw Bailey in it from the get-go, and it's all in celebration of this guy. Tom Baker's clocked up another birthday today. I didn't think this was due. I kind of lost track, I think, of the last 2 to 3 weeks as I've been doing sort of real-world things, real-world concerns, family concerns. Tom Baker's birthday today. Today, he's 91. Another one rolls around, and here he is catching up on some reading and with a friend. I like how he's in a full suit as well. Tweed suit with waistcoat. Brilliant stuff. That's how a doctor really gets around. So let us know, obviously, your birthday greetings for Tom. We'll pass them on if we can. Happy birthday, Tom Baker, says Ezra Goldstein. Yeah, obviously he's had a few. He's had a few by now. They keep rolling around, don't they? Doesn't seem long since we were celebrating the last one, does it? But there we are. Bloody cold out. I know that much. It's always so cold at this time of year, isn't it? And you got to sort of defrost the car, and whoa, not good. So let us know how you're getting on with all of that and your New Year resolutions. New Year resolutions too. Are you upgrading your wardrobe here, like the Sixth Doctor did when he discovered the blue? He started to add blue to his ensemble, didn't he? With the cloak. I think it was in mourning, wasn't it, for his friend? When he was visiting Tranquil Repose. But blue became a thing for the Sixth Doctor, albeit off telly. So have you just decided to sort of mix up your wardrobe a little bit, or are you hitting the gym, as a lot of people do this time of year? How's it getting on? Or have you just promised that you're going to be a bit more kind to animals? Yeah, I don't know. Let us know. It's all fine by us. We're pretty chilled out here at Type 40. Always, yes. And again, happy birthday to the great Tom Baker. Eternally the Doctor. What a day. Big day for Tom. Big day for a lot of people. Come to think of it, there's a lot kicking off later. I know. So let us know how big your day you think it's going to get. And I hope you had a great Christmas, and sincerely hope you had a good New Year as well. Heretics in the live chat there and asks, what are we wrong thinking today? Everything. As always. Just assume whatever I'm thinking is wrong. Happy Passover Day, says Michael Q. And hello there for me. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Hello, Dan, King of the Geeks. Thank you. Darren from the Darren Zone there says, afternoon, Dan, and all in the chat. Happy birthday greetings to the legend that is Tom Baker, our once and forever Doctor. Yeah, always up to no good as well, isn't he? Tom Baker, always up to no good. Hail Dan, says Ezra. Thank you. I'll take a hail any day of the week. Yes, I've missed doing these live streams. People have asked me if I was going to come back and do some more of them for the new year, because this sort of happened by accident originally, didn't it? But yeah, we're back. And there will be more. It's going to sort of evolve. I'm going to bring some people in, some people you've met before, catching up with some old friends, and maybe some people I've not spoken to before as well. So that's going to be fun, isn't it? We'll see where it goes. And this could be the last one of the shows that I do with a pun in the title, as because the only thing about doing more of them is I'm going to have to try and decide what they're going to be about before I do them, and quite frankly, there might not be enough hours in the day for each week to do that. But we'll see how they come out and whether the show gets a proper name or not over the coming weeks. As long as I'm here and you're there, we can have a chat, can't we? Chill out, catch up, and all that jazz. We can talk about Doctor Who. We can talk about other things as well, can't we? As long as it's tangentially Doctor Who related, I don't think it really don't think it really matters, does it, Tom? These two girls were big Doctor Who fans. If they weren't before, they probably were after, right, Tom? Oh, God. Yes, let me know what you think of it all. Of course, how you're rating 2025 so far. How's it going for you? And how are you getting by with your New Year resolutions? I personally don't believe in them. I think if something's worth doing, if a change is worth making, you can do it at any time. Why wait? Why wait? That's probably just me being grumpy. Tom, what do you think? It is. Yeah, so I'm not going to go on too much about Tom Baker because we have quite a lot lately. You can catch up with myself and my dear friends Simon and Sarah on the Type 40 Extra that we put out. This is a couple of weeks ago, I think now. So it was Tom's Who-niversary, wasn't it, over the Christmas and New Year period? The anniversary of his first full on-screen appearance, the first episode of Robot over the Christmas period. So myself, Simon and Sarah, we got together, we had a bit of a chin wag about Tom himself, because it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? And we watched Robot Part 1 together, and we recorded a commentary track, and so that was nice. Doing those things, it's nice to hang out with friends in a virtual way as well, and broadcast it to you as well, you lucky people. So that's there on the playlist. Type 40 Extra, the fourth kind. There, if you want some more Tom Baker talk. And there'll be more of our Tom Baker shenanigans as well later in the week. We're back with Type 40 Live this coming Thursday, the 200th edition of Type 40 Live too. So there'll be a little bit of a celebration for that when we're across Rumble, X, YouTube and Facebook with a panel of Doctor Who fans and a throbbing, gushing live chat. All being well, fingers crossed. So don't miss that. Let's have a quick. Do you have another blast of Tom?
I was just trying to gild this rather dreary two-shot here, which looks as if we're advertising something. I think it would be quite nice if it was agreeable to Mary and Norma that when just as our cue comes up, if Mary actually was going to say something to me, and then we actually get away like that. I know it's awesome.
Fine, lovely.
But
do you want a cue? Or will you take your cue from
I'll take my cue from John.
Right.
Well, I could waggle my ducks.
No, don't waggle.
No, don't waggle my ducks.
No, it'll frighten the horse.
That bit of shitty.
Yes. Oh, right.
Never gets old, does it, seeing Tom Baker monkeying around? Wallace and Gromit, big Doctor Who fans, of course they are. Who's not? And who's not a Wallace and Gromit fan? People seem surprised that Wallace and Gromit did so well over on the Christmas schedule that it topped the ratings. I wasn't surprised at all. There'll be more ratings talk, doubtless, later in the week as well. What have we got here? David Milling says, my New Year resolution is to not kick in the TV set and go on a rampage when the rumoured Doctor Who Eurovision in Space episode airs. I'm amazed it's taken them this long, to be quite honest. I consider it, a major plus they resisted for this long. 2025 is going well for Rob Alexander so far, but he doesn't generally make resolutions. A sensible man. They work for some, in all fairness. They do work for some. They don't work for me. Never work for me. So yeah, don't do all that jazz. Happy 200th. Not 200th yet, Rob. That's this coming Thursday for Type 40 Live. Don't miss that. 8 p.m. as always on Thursday. Afternoon all from John Yulden. Good to see you, John. Hope you're feeling better as well. People are asking how one another are too. Yeah, it's so we're just sort of playing catch up a little bit, aren't we? We've been catching up on the news, and not least of all the news that, and here he is with our very own John Hurt. David Lynch passed away a few days ago, didn't he? Big David Lynch fan. I think a lot of you are as well. There's been an outpouring of affection and tributes, and that sort of sense of loss, I think, that you do when somebody who's been such a major contributor to a particular creative endeavour leaves us. It's David Lynch was a remarkable artist, made some unforgettable films, kind of films where even if you only seen them once, you never forget them. And then when you do go back to them, you have a completely different experience. I don't think he made a star of John Hurt, but The Elephant Man, which John Hurt starred in, along with Anthony Hopkins, it absolutely made David Lynch, didn't it, as a director? And David Lynch was a kind of influence on Doctor Who in a sort of way as well, wasn't he? I saw this quote here from our very own Peter Capaldi when talking about his costume. God, this was over 10 years ago now. Peter Capaldi made this stark debut, wasn't it, as the Doctor? When we first saw his costume, I mean, I loved it from the get-go. And in fact, the further they deviated from this initial look, this kind of thin white Duke look, the less interested I got, to tell you the truth. Those raggedy shirts and the longer his hair got, I felt the worse it got as well, but there we are. And Capaldi said, in regard to his costume, yeah, it was based on David Bowie and David Lynch. David Lynch, who used to do that buttoned-up white shirt thing. Yeah, and I did like some of the sweaters and things that Capaldi wore later on, in all fairness. I didn't mind that at all. But the best look for me was that original look, that crisper look. I appreciate it was a little bit more severe, but I think the layers and the different textures, the cardigan and stuff, helped to soften it. Up to soften it a little, and you're quite right. Yeah, David Lynch was the guy I'd always associated with that, as if he'd forgotten to put his tie on. I don't think David Lynch ever forgot anything. People who took him for a flake kind of missed the point. Cheryl says, happy birthday to Tom Baker. He looks fantastic for 91. Yeah, he does, doesn't he? I think he's looking better lately. But yeah, rest in peace, David Lynch. Obviously, greatly missed. Hadn't made a feature film for quite a long time, but was still creating up until recently, as I understand. Yeah, so he definitely will be missed. What else is here? Got lots of little things squirreled away. Capaldi was, according to Adrian Sherlock, Capaldi was the last good Doctor. Clara, am I a good man? He was always asking that, wasn't he? Am I a good man? We just care whether we're good doctors or not, don't we? We don't care whether they're good men or not. Tom Baker is the Doctor, says Michael Q. Happy birthday to Tom, says Adrian Sherlock too. And Adrian reminds us that the young ones parodied the Elephant Man. Yes, they did. And so did Blackadder. Do you remember the Blackadder 2? The guy's going to be executed, but he wears a bag over his head. It's they've already killed him, haven't they? But Edmund Blackadder wears a bag over his head to disguise the fact that he's not who he's pretending to be. Oh, fantastic. Rest in peace, David Lynch, says Ezra Goldstein. Yeah. There's never been, to the best of my knowledge, a mashup parody of Wallace and Gromit with David Lynch, but it's tied all together. But you never know, do you? There've been several more Doctor Who Wallace and Gromit parodies this week. This one really did make me laugh. Yeah, because of course over Christmas it was the anniversary of Robot, the 50th anniversary of Robot screening, and this appeared on social media as Wallace and Gromit fever really hit. Yeah, so directly after having a go at Gromit's garden, Norbert caught up with Sarah Jane. I don't know what he was going to do to Sarah. Take her hem up an inch or two, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? All this stuff really makes me laugh. What's the jam? Asks Adrian Sherlock. The jam? Haven't got any jam. Haven't got any jam today. I might have a couple of crumpets later on, though. We'll have to wait and see. More tributes to David Lynch here. Anyone else a big fan of the young ones then? I do love anything with Rick Mayall in, basically. Lord Blackadder, says Michael Q. Lord Blackadder. Adrian says, Tom is not only the most iconic Doctor, he's also a wonderful, lovable, and hilariously droll human being. Yeah, he is. Yeah. I suspect he's a complicated man. what it would be like to have a man like that in one's life on a day-to-day basis, I don't know. I think his wife probably got the patience of a saint. But there we are. What's the jam? WTF. Yeah. I never tire of seeing clips or pictures of Tom Baker. It doesn't really matter what he's doing or where it is or whatever point in his life. He's an endlessly fascinating character, I think. And we're very lucky to have him forever associated with our show, aren't we? I mean, anybody who can... Every expression on the man's face is kind of priceless, isn't it? You know, we get a lot of mileage out of these pictures. Just on this show. Endlessly entertaining. And, you know, not the most naturalistic man in the world, it has to be said. But, you know, he's an oddball, but he's our oddball, isn't he? And he was exactly the right man for Doctor Who at precisely the right time. And, you know, it was quite right that they say, don't they, Tom Baker couldn't be replaced, only succeeded. I think that's the case when it comes to most of the Doctors as well. Yeah, tough job. Tougher job for some than for others, wasn't it, Peter? Yeah, bless them all, come to think of it. Darren asks, imagine if Tom Baker and Brian Blessed sat down for a chat, you could sell tickets. I'm amazed they haven't done that. I know that Brian Blessed was at a convention with McCoy late last year, was it? Something like that. That was a scream. But you just know that if you get them onto any one of a number of topics, they're probably any topic. You could pick a topic out of a tombola, couldn't you? And those guys are going to have interesting takes or anecdotes to tell, connected with practically everything. I think when you've lived lives like those two gentlemen have, long, storied lives, and said yes to most things, had all these different experiences. Rob asks, do you think anyone will ever beat Tom's 7-year record? Playing the Doctor in Doctor Who? No. No, not a chance. Not now. Times have changed. The craft, the profession has changed. What it expects of these actors, I think it's highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. Adrian says you could have cut out all the aliens and made the show all about Tom Baker as the Doctor, and it would have been brilliant. I think if you asked Tom, it was all about him anyway. And I don't think he'd necessarily be wrong in that either, would he? Yeah. As for will anybody ever beat that? I mean, will Ncuti Gatwa? Could Ncuti Gatwa beat Tom's record? Well, we'll all find out together, won't we? I suspect I know the answer to this, but oh dear. Poor old Ncuti. Bradley Miller says, I'm 30 and so was at the perfect age to watch New Who as a child. What you just said about Tom Baker, I feel exactly the same way about David Tennant. Never tire of photos of him. He's a delight to watch. I think well, Tennant, I would say there are three kind of iconic incarnations of the Doctor that are pretty unmovable. I would argue that Tom Baker stands proud. Steady on. Tom Baker stands proudest of them all. But the other two I would say would be William Hartnell and David Tennant, and with Tom sort of in the dead centre. I think with due respect to all the other gentlemen, and I love them all, those three incarnations of the character at those precise times, phenomenal, massively impactful. Adrian Sherlock says, Peter Davison won my heart. Underrated Doctor. No argument from me. He's very much my Doctor. Could look happier about it, Peter. Bloody hell. David Tennant's energy in New Who was so infectious. It really was. And the entire country, certainly Britain, got swept up in that. I know it didn't quite hit the rest of the world in the same way. Matt Smith had to come along for that to happen. But with David Tennant, it absolutely was phenomenally popular. And it's only now that the shine is coming off that a little bit. And that's not necessarily anything to do with anything that he's done on screen. It's more to do with the actor's behaviour off screen, isn't it? I get the impression he's learnt his lesson there, though. Notice how quiet David's been since Keir Starmer got in. Funny that. Darren suggests that Tom could read an Aldi receipt aloud and it would still be compelling. You're probably right. You're probably onto something there. You don't have to resort to reading Aldi receipts here at Type 40. Of course we don't. Not when we have all of social media to plunder for our content and conversation. This time I've been over on Reddit. I'm not a big Reddit user. Firstly, there are only so many hours in the day. And virtually everything that I ever hear of that comes from Reddit is completely insane. So, there's only so much wear and tear that one's psyche can take, isn't there? But this has come off Reddit in the last 24 hours. I want to thank D.W. Ruther for this one. I had to jump on this and bring this to you and see if you'd heard about it because, this has been shared over on Reddit. We have some movement, it seems, on the expansion of the Whoniverse. Remember the Whoniverse? No? Do you remember come on, you must remember the Whoniverse. There was the fanfare and the siren and the fancy special effects and the graphics and all that stuff. No? So the idea of the Whoniverse is that Doctor Who will expand into a whole sort of plethora of programming that will encompass the past, the present, and in time, the future. And that Doctor Who itself will, just as it was in the noughties there, when, as Bradley was saying, when David Tennant was reigning supreme, there was the Doctor Who, there was Torchwood, there was Sarah Jane. And the idea is that they move it back to being very much in that model. Not going well, is it? But that is the plan for the Whoniverse, with Bad Wolf and the BBC working together on that. I think they're very, very invested in it together because they're wrapped up in one another, aren't they? But when Disney Plus entered the equation as the international global streaming partners, that has sort of changed things up a little bit and certainly lessened the association with BBC One, which we've obviously been used to in Britain. Doctor Who was a flagship show on the biggest channel on British TV. Given the fact that it was placed dead centre of the Christmas Day schedule again this year, I'd say that they certainly consider it to be a flagship show still. But that's another story, isn't it? How it's going to be for them to expand the Whoniverse in a way that we would like, that the general audience are going to respond to, and that befits their ambitions for the brand and for the Whoniverse. Heaven knows that the first slice of that looks to be the war between the land and the sea. And that finished filming just before Christmas, didn't it? I think we talked about that before then. But when are we going to get to see that? Because the popular wisdom seemed to be that we're not going to see this for a really, really long time. And Russell T Davies said something about that recently. And we don't even know what's happening with the main series for the time being, do we? But over on Reddit, there's been some indicator here that we could get the spin-off a little bit sooner than we thought. So here's the slate. This comes from the Disney Plus subreddit. And they've got a new 2025 slate here, and this graphic from Disney Plus, which has tiles representing various different productions that are exclusive to the Disney Plus streaming platform. So none of this stuff is going to cinemas. It's all Disney Plus series. So you've got such things, the associated shows with the Marvel Studios brand. You've got Daredevil, you've got iHeart, Marvel Zombies, you've got Wonder Man. There's the animated stuff, sort of win or lose, and Star Wars material too. The remnants of the disastrous Star Wars productions. They're the Lucasfilm acquisition in Andor and Visions. So it's all in there. But if you look, there's the Doctor Who tile there in the middle on the left, and at the bottom there's we see more. We see the war between the land and the sea right there. A brand new logo that we've never seen before. And that looks, yes, they've got that. It would seem to be for far later in the year because we know that Wonder Man isn't scheduled to arrive until November, December. I think that's sort of their big Christmas thing. Now, usually I wouldn't give this a second look. I'd sort of dismiss it as some sort of fake that had been maybe knocked up by some woke nut job and then put onto X. To kind of make something happen, to give them a nudge. But seeing as this hasn't come from an actual Doctor Who account, it's from a Disney domain, it seems to me that they wouldn't have a dog in the fight. If you scroll down the Disney Reddit, they describe the war between the land and the sea as an obscure spin-off from Doctor Who. They're not necessarily wrong about that, are they? So do you see what I mean? I've got no reason to believe that this isn't kosher, and that the war between the land and the sea could be coming later this year rather than next year. After all, I thought it was nailed on. They were going to hold this back until 2026, given the uncertainty in the air surrounding the main show. Because things have happened there, as I understand it. The things that were this time last year, the way that it looks that it was going to go, it's not going to go that way. And that the timings that we were initially, if not promised, that were initially stated, that's not going to happen either. But yeah, the spin-off show, of course, it depends on how long it spends in post-production, doesn't it? Let's have a close look. So yes, what does it say? New 2025 slate confirmed. There is a question mark there from Amazing Cover 7745, to be fair. So they're not making a statement, they're asking a question. There we have it. What do you think? Could we be getting? The indication is, given that Wonder Man is due to drop before the end of the year, the indication is that so will the war between the land and the sea. What do you think in the live chat? Let's have a look and see what people have got to say about this little gem. Let's work our way backwards here. Doctor Who is on life support, states Adrian Sherlock. Heretic says, I think it could be dropping sooner because it's the end of the deal. And that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because that does represent, the war between the land and the sea does represent the balance, doesn't it? The material that will end that initial agreement, that initial order between Bad Wolf, the BBC, and Disney Plus. Disney Plus has a distribution deal. So yeah, I'm not saying they haven't got some editorial say, but it is quite minimal. They are global distribution. So the show was happening already. The war between the land and the sea would have happened anyway. Probably wouldn't be quite as expensive as it's going to be, but it would have happened anyway. Maybe they want to get it all screened and out there sooner rather than later so they can all move on. I think that's a really interesting point, Heretic. I think that's quite likely, given the dissatisfaction in all camps. I think I can say that public. I have to work out what I can say and what I can't. Okay, yeah, there's massive dissatisfaction across all camps when it comes to the Doctor Who deal at the moment. Nobody's happy. Everybody has fallen out with everybody else on a corporate level and even on a personal level too. More about that Type 40 Live this coming Thursday. John Yulden says, I see War is placed around top quality show tiles. So it's in good company. I don't know what to expect of that. I mean, I think the Daredevil show looks quite good. So if I don't know much about the Wonder Man one. I know they've racially swapped the lead character of that, haven't they? But it looks like a decent actor they've got playing Wonder Man. Simon Williams Wonder Man in the Marvel Comics. Why isn't Land and Sea a Doctor Who serial? Asks Adrian Sherlock. Just have the war take place while the Doctor is away on Metabolis 3 or something. Well, I suppose we'll know after we've seen it. We don't. So it's hard to say, isn't it? Why wasn't Torchwood Children of Earth a Doctor Who serial by the same measure? We have to wait until we see the thing, until we make that kind of call. In all truth. But this does, I mean, the only thing I was a bit doubtful about was the fact that this is a different logo, isn't it? So this logo here for the War Between the Land and the Sea is completely different to the one that we've seen before. But those things do change, and it's a long way. It's a long way off. And the logo that we saw before, I think I've got that here somewhere. The logo that we saw before was just on the back of some deck chairs, wasn't it? When they're on location. You know, those like director's chairs that they have when they're on location making these things. Robert Payne says the War Between the Land and the Sea is just cliff erosion. Cliff erosion. Isn't he didn't he represent us in the Eurovision Song Contest one year? Adrian says there's barely been a handful of decent scripts in the last 8 years of Doctor Who. I wouldn't necessarily argue with that, but that's not really what I'm talking about. Your show has to be all kinds of bad for Disney to pull out of a deal. So how we define bad? There's plenty of shows that I would call bad that Disney are involved with through their various arms that seem to have been running for 7, 8, 9 or 10 years. I think that things have to be untenable financially and editorially for them to cut off a deal like that. Other than the fact that there's nobody watching them, of course. I mean, that's the top priority. If nobody's watching, they're not going to keep it on, are they? But I think Heretic could be onto something here. I think if it seems earlier than we'd imagined. The earlier they screen it, the earlier. It doesn't mean that stuff's going to be produced necessarily quicker, but it would mean that both brands could potentially move on faster if there's no association between Disney Plus and Doctor Who past a certain point. There's a lot of truth in that. What else have we got here in the live chat? Gore Vidal asks, how will the War Between the Land and the Sea appeal to non-Doctor Who viewers? Even Doctor Who fans are lukewarm to the idea. Doctor Who's had spin-offs before, hasn't it, Gore? Torchwood had considerable appeal outside of Doctor Who, believe it or not. So again, it depends where you are in the world. In Britain, I knew a decent number of people who watched Torchwood and enjoyed it, but not just that they weren't Doctor Who fans, they just didn't watch Doctor Who, or that maybe their kids watched it or they'd seen some of it. They just didn't watch it habitually, but they did watch and enjoy Torchwood. I knew a lot of people like that. It appealed to, it had crossover appeal and appealed additionally to people as well. So how will this new show appeal to in the same way? The tone of the story, telling the tone of the story, the time of night that it's broadcast, the channel that it's on. It depends on how it's marketed. That's how. The secret's always in the marketing. with these things. Obviously, it stars. In this instance, though, what we notice is that most of these actors, most of these characters, actually, is it most? 3 of them. 3 of these characters are characters who've appeared in Doctor Who. One of which, I think a lot of people aren't going to know, with the best will in the world, to Ruth. I like Ruth Madeley. I think she seems like a really fun person. I know she's really proud to be in Doctor Who, but I don't think the public are necessarily going to remember that she was in it, because she's only been in it once, hasn't she? Once, maybe twice. So Ruth Madeley's going to be in that. The fella grinning like a Cheshire cat, holding his script, wearing the espadrilles or whatever they are, sat on the suitcase. I can't even remember that character's name. I think most people won't remember that he's, the only person who's actually associated with Doctor Who is Gemma Redgrave, because she's been playing Kate Stewart for how long? 12, 13 years, something like that. So to the general public, I think these are going to be mostly new characters. And Redgrave as Kate Stewart will be as familiar to them as Captain Jack was, perhaps, when Torchwood launched. Don't know. But that would be my instinct. And here's the original. This is the logo of the War Between the Land and the Sea that was on the back of the chairs and things like that back when it was being shot. But again, it's been shot over several months. A few months ago. That doesn't mean to say that this is the logo that'll make its way through to the screen. Hello all, says Vanessa Law. Okay, what happened? Well, I'm not sure anything's actually happened yet. But it will be happening at some point in the future, in the not too distant future. Rob asks, should the War Between the Land and the Sea logo have a small Who logo in the corner? Again, did Torchwood's. I don't think it does. I think a byline with the Whoniverse logo on it, either above or beneath, would be, speaking as somebody who works in branding and design and has done that sort of thing, that's what I would do. I would run, that just that white out, or they use it white out of black or black out of white. It's the Whoniverse. That's it. It's the Whoniverse wording there. Just take that total, a flat PNG, either at the bottom or at the top of the War Between the Land and the Sea logo. That will be what is required to grow the Whoniverse brand in exactly the same way that they do the Marvel Studios stuff. That's what I would do. But here on this new graphic that we've been looking at, obviously we will all find out more. But here's an instance where on the social medias they put the Diamond Doctor Who logo in the corner of all of those. But I think it's different when you're taking things across different social media platforms, isn't it? Because they use the same graphics at different orientations depending on the format of the social media platform. I think with broadcasting, it's different. And maybe that's, so I would, if this is the new logo, I think it's quite likely. If this is the logo for the spin-off, I would expect the word Whoniverse to appear at the bottom. That looks like the BBC cubes at the top. I would pop Whoniverse at the bottom there. What do you think? That's just me with my designer's hat on. It depends how well the deal's going, though, isn't it? Or not. I mean, I don't think Disney have seemed particularly invested in any of it anyway, or certainly not as invested as they could have been. I mean, if you remember, they barely promoted the church on Ruby Road. They held back until Space Babies, until the launch of season 1. I don't know how they are maintaining the presence of Doctor Who on the platform. I gather that they still advertise it, that it's in a sort of clips package. But I do know from Disney Plus users that its priority, when you go to the homepage, it's very much dropped from the general, it's not one of the first shows that you see when you go to the app. You'll have to let me know. Disney Plus users, please let me know. And does that differ as well, depending on which territory that you live in? Maybe it's different on the British Disney Plus than it is on the one in the States. And same with Australia or Canada, where Doctor Who has a traditionally larger presence. I'd like to know. Bradley Miller says, I want to say people were interested in the spin-off because of the Martha Jones rumours, but her sister, in it playing a different character, isn't pulling me in enough. Well, again, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, along with Russell Tovey, and the gentleman on the right as well, his name I can't remember. All three of them have been in Doctor Who before in different roles. Russell Tovey, he's done a lot of lifting since he was in Doctor Who. He's a big unit now. He looks different, looks older. Gugu Mbatha-Raw, she still looks very youthful for a woman in her 40s, I think. Beautiful woman. And but I think, against the general public, they're not going to remember who played a companion sister on Doctor Who 20 years ago. They're just not going to remember. I think a lot of fans would forget as well. Because Reggie Yates played Martha's brother, didn't he? Who remembers Reggie Yates? Naughty Reggie. Yeah, he's another one, isn't he? He used to be on TV all the time, and yeah, best not mention that. Did Disney bail? Says Vanessa Law. Yes. What was that? Type 40 Live this coming Thursday. The current Disney administration remind me of Orson Welles' Magnificent Andersons, where the rich kids squander the wealth their parents have earned for them to inherit. It's very intellectual for me for a Monday lunchtime. Adrian, not sure I really know what you're talking about, but that sounds right. Sounds right to me. Yes, it's all gone tits up. I think that's pretty self-evident, isn't it? More details coming soon when I work out what I can say and what I can't. John says here, John's got a few details. Look, he says, the War Between the Land and the Sea is going to be a mini-series that involves sea devils forcing humanity to pick up their litter. Could be. Used to be who was it in the 80s they used to run on those adverts? Wasn't Busby, was it? Busby was the British Telecom guy. Who did they get doing the Keep Britain Tidy one? Who was the mascot for the Keep Britain Tidy ads? Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who helped jog my memory. The show looks terrible, says Bunch of Wallace. Which show? Just all of it. Happy New Year from Bunch of Wallace. Which one? Which one looks terrible? Would you watch any of this? Would you watch any of that? Any of that? I like that one better. John fills in some blanks here and says that Disney commissioned time and time again for them to withdraw from a deal. Oh no, Disney commissioned time and time again for them to withdraw from a deal. All metrics have to be terrible. Yeah, I'd say it doesn't. Of course, it would have to be holistic. They would look at lots of different factors. Torchwood was a show with its own premise, says Adrian Sherlock. A bit like UK X-Files. Land and Sea seems to have no individual... We don't know, Adrian. We haven't fucking seen it. I mean, the unit setup is not that dissimilar to Torchwood's, is it? So I don't think it's a big reach to say that we can apply virtually everything to Torchwood then... Kind of applies to Unit now. It's just that we are kind of used to... Torchwood wasn't pre-established within the main show, whereas Unit has been. I think that's literally the only difference. I don't think it's that complicated. Sorry, Adrian, I don't. I'm not sure I'll watch this. I'll have to wait and see, says Cheryl. Again, there was lots of Doctor Who viewers who didn't watch Torchwood for one reason or another. An adult version of Doctor Who didn't appeal to everybody. A lot of fans really hate it. You know, watched a couple of episodes, couldn't stand the tone. In the same way that I read some of the Doctor Who New Adventures from Virgin in the 90s. I mean, I've bought virtually all of them. I only read like the first 10 before I just gave up. And the reason I stopped reading them wasn't necessarily any reflection on the writers, because they were all... Certainly the ones that I read, I wouldn't say they were badly written. I've spoken to a couple of people who wrote them, so decent people. I just found the tone for me wasn't Doctor Who. And there was a great many people tried Torchwood and thought the tone was too different to Doctor Who. This isn't why I watch this stuff. And so they didn't watch any further. I think that was it. I like Gemma, but I wish her character had been retired. She's been playing Kate Stewart now for way longer than Nick Courtney played the Brigadier. Get your heads around that. She was 60 the other day as well, Gemma Redgrave. She's looking great for 60. And in many ways, I think the Doctor Who universe is lucky to have her. I think she's a better actress than the material has often allowed her to demonstrate. I think she's been very patient with the character. I mean, God, those Jodie Whittaker ones she was in, Jesus. I mean, the one in particular, it looked like she'd just been given the lines like 10 minutes before they were recording them. And Michael Q says, Kate Stewart, Colonel Sexy Russell Tovey is the master, was Martha's sister. Michael, I can't make head and tail of this comment, mate. As long as you know what you're talking about, that's fine. John Yulden had a nightmare last week that Kate Stewart and Colonel Abraham didn't have a hit with Trapped in the 1980s, Colonel Abraham, with a flashing codpiece. But John had a nightmare last week that Kate Stewart and Colonel Abrahams from the 80s turned up on his door wearing a flashing codpiece, offering him a job. Ooh, knows what kind of job in unit, but it sent a shiver down John's spine. He woke up in a cold sweat. Trapped. No, I'm not going to sing. Can't inflict my singing on you as well, can I? It's bad enough to bring the jokes. I think to inflict my singing on you too could be a step too far, even for me here at Type 40. What do you think of this then? What do you make? Are you Reddit users? Is anybody out there a regular Reddit user? I do. I have got an account there, but I seldom use it. I think it's full of a lot of old... Well, I try not to judge these things. People use different platforms for different reasons, don't they, in different ways. There aren't enough hours in the day and all that. I'm trying not to be dismissive of those who do read it. And what do you think of this? Can this be trusted? Disney Plus. The subreddit is Disney Plus. Hardcore Disney fans, they're keeping track of what's what and when it's coming. So can we place our faith in them? Let us know what you think here on Type 40 and whatever this show's going to be called. Here, Mark, says Michael Q. Quite agree. Congratulations. Hi, we've got Matt, the Silent Wii Music King, joining us here as well in the live chat too. Good to have you back. Mark says, didn't Kate Stewart come out? She can have a Yanto of her own now. Did she come out? Who cares? Everybody's coming out as something now. I'm coming out as a rampant heterosexual. Says the man with 6 kids to nobody's surprise. Colin McFarlane lives down the road from me. That's Colin McFarlane. That's the gentleman here, the black guy in the blue suit. I'm right, aren't I? Great. I hate the fact that I can't always remember these actors' names because he is fabulous. I really like him. He's always good in everything. And he's on social media as well. He's dead proud of being in Doctor Who. Yeah. Good on you, Colin. I hope he's got a decent part in this. Natty trainers, aren't they? Yeah. If you do see Colin, give him a nudge. Tell him to get him on the show. God. The rabbi says, so this is an answer to my question about Disney Plus there. So I was wondering where they'd got it prioritized on the homepage, on the Disney Plus app, and how that balances with the whole situation. The rabbi says in Israel, Disney Plus puts Doctor Who on the front page, but only when a new episode drops. It's never listed before it drops, even 10 seconds before it drops. So it's not, there's no fanfare, there's no great presentation of it. not a huge amount of pride. It sounds like it's purely functional. The Wombles, says Lee Smith. Get the Wombles in. Yeah, I agree. The Wombles would sort it all out. Absolutely. Get Woodsy the Owl in. Says, oh, got it. Keep Britain tidy. Yes, you're right. It wasn't always the Wombles, though. So, yeah, the Keep Britain campaign, Keep Britain tidy campaign in the 70s and the 80s, the Wombles definitely had that covered for a time, didn't they? They were the go-to for all your littering questions. But according to Sticks Boy here, it was Woodsy the Owl. I don't remember Woodsy the Owl. Going to Google that afterwards. Rob Alexander says he recalls a public information film with a hedgehog called Spiky, encouraging people to take their litter home. Lost me there. Hedgehogs, owls. Don't remember any of this. Remember the Wombles, though. Remember you're a Womble. I remember that. Remember that really well. Matt said... Kate Stewart can't carry a scene, let alone carry her own show. You know what? You're not wrong. Again, I think Gemma Redgrave's quite good, but I do think that she's only as good as the material that she's given. She's not the kind of... I don't think she can lift stuff in the way that Peter Capaldi could lift material, couldn't he? I don't think that Gemma Redgrave's got that. Michelle Gomez, she could lift iffy material too. I don't think Jenna Redgrave can. No, you're right. What else is here? 10 rounds rapid, suggests M. That sorts most people out, most problems out. 10 rounds of what, though? Lemonade Shandy usually sorts me out, if I'm honest. 10 rounds would definitely sort me out. I'd be out for the count, in fact. Flat on my back. Lee Smith says, is it true that the Terranation estate has fully sold the Daleks to the BBC? I'd be surprised. You know, I think any of the individual intellectual property holders attached to Doctor Who icons, properties, whether they appeared once or several times, anybody who holds those rights, if you were to tell me that any of them had sold them to the BBC, I'd believe you, with the exception of one. I can't see the Terry Nation estate ever selling the Daleks, even to the BBC. I'd say if they were ever going to do it, it would have been when Doctor Who was massive in the late noughties, or maybe even when it was on Netflix, you know, around the time of the 50th maybe. But now, no, I'd be surprised. You have to let me know where you've seen that or where you've heard it, but it's not something that I've heard. I have heard about other things, which I can't really talk about. That wouldn't be fair. Different circumstances and involving people that I like. So, yeah. Unit could now have a DEI division just when everybody else is giving it up. You're quite right, John. It could. And Eastlyn Burkholder says that they're not a regular Reddit user. Me neither. I dip into it every now and again. And so does Matt as well, it seems. Matt, the Wii Music King, doesn't use it very often. It's the kind of thing that you have an account open there, you think, oh, I forget that I've got it. Sometimes if ever I want to take an app off my phone because I'm sick of all the icons, it's usually that one I delete. It's one of the few that I delete, and then I sort of download it again. PD Rich, yeah, Colin McFarlane, thank you. Yeah. Adrian's talking about Quatermass. Don't get me started on Quatermass. Love a bit of Quatermass. Dalek Lives Matter suggests, says here, I didn't watch Torchwood. It felt like it was just a quick cash in on Doctor Who. Plus, I never liked John Barrowman. Well, there you go. It was, again, would you have watched the original series of Star Trek if you didn't like William Shatner? If you didn't like John Barrowman, then you're not, yeah. I can see why. He was so, his personality, his presence, he was omnipresent, wasn't he, in Torchwood? Even the episodes that he wasn't the focus of, he very much set the tone of it, I think. Hellos all around. They used to make around 4 or 5 movie-length stories per year. In 4 or 6 parts, there was a sense of quality over quantity. Talking about the classic series of Doctor Who? Yeah, we're going back 35 years here, aren't we? 35, 40 years. Yes, they did. But everything was largely... Are we saying that was a better thing? Yes, they did. Yeah, I think we're going back decades. What's the point we're trying to make with that? Help Woodsy spread the word. Never be a dirty bird, says James A. Fitzpatrick. That's advice that's going to stand you well, isn't it? That does age. That's just as valid now, decades on. Thank you for that one, James. Do you think New Who will get the collection treatment? Asks Filmed in Super Marionation. The intention, well, I can answer up to a point, in that I know that the intention from the guys who work on the collection box sets, the intention is that new Doctor Who will get the same treatment on Blu-ray, that it will join that range that they call the collection on Blu-ray, with the limited edition collector's box sets there and new extras, and get pimped out in the way that we'd want it to, that we're used to seeing these things get sort of treated. And yes, so that's the intention. But by the same measure, the same guys are also keen to remind us that despite the fact that Doctor Who Blu-rays sell well and sell consistently, their continuation is never completely guaranteed and set in stone. I have to be careful what I say here, because this does change all the time. But the Blu-ray market being as it is, the dwindling, physical media is dwindling. And so the caution from the people that I've spoken to who work on the sets is that they can't guarantee that the range will be completed as it stands with the classic show, because of the change of the market, and the appetites may change. They know they can guarantee a certain amount of us will buy them. They would love to go on and do the new stuff as well. Certainly when I last spoke to people involved, whether that actually happens or not, I think it's a tall order. I'd say, how many sets is that? We're about 14 sets in, aren't we, of the 26? I'd be surprised. I think the window could be closing on that. Yeah. Do you think? I know they'd like to. I never thought that we'd see Blake 7, though. I thought the time was up for Blake 7. There was no way we were going to get that, and yet we've got it. Thank you, Lee. So Lee says that Philip Morris said the Terry Nation State has fully sold the Daleks to the BBC last night. Hopefully not correct. If that's what Philip says, I've got no reason not to believe Philip. Philip is careful about the things that he states publicly, particularly regarding the field that he works in. Phil would know, I would think. So if he said that publicly and clearly, I'd say he's one of the people who I would be inclined to believe if he stated something like that. Interesting. Have to find out, won't we? Could get the next spin-off, the sequel to The War Between the Land and the Sea. Could be a Daleks one, Dalek Empire style show. And it could be pretty good. I'd love to see a dedicated Dalek show. Big Finish did some brilliant Dalek stuff, solo Dalek stuff. Hello, everyone, says Jonathan Cox. Hi, Jonathan Cox from Everyone. A bunch of Wallace says, I hope the show gets cancelled and eventually given to someone worthy of making something watchable. Yeah, obviously every time we do these shows, I get comments like this and, giving Shooter Gatwa a good kick in. And I know that we treat it as sort of therapy. It's not, I'll indulge it up to a point, because sometimes I get in a mood like this too. Of course I do. But I'm not going to keep returning to the same talking points, the same, and digging the same hole. But I don't hope for Doctor Who to get cancelled. No, I don't want it to get cancelled just to prove a point. But obviously I want it to be considerably better. I'd like it to get better. Do I think the deal... I think the production with Bad Wolf could be salvaged if they would get their heads from out of their arses and accept the fact that nobody wants the woke shit. It's been rejected, roundly rejected, over and over again. And it's when they lean into that, when it all falls apart. I think they've got to accept that Shooter Gatwa it's not working. With the whatever intentions that they've got, either the actor himself or them in casting him, it simply isn't working. There are certain things that have to be accepted for the show to have any kind of short-term life. But I don't want the show to get cancelled as such, not on principle. I'd be happy if the people currently involved in making it sort of moved on. And accepted the fact that maybe they're not the right people to be making it at this moment in time. But that's different to it being cancelled, isn't it? I think Russell T Davies needs to move on. I don't think he intends to do Doctor Who any harm, but I think Russell T Davies needs to move on. Stephen Moffat. I like Stephen Moffat. I think he seems... I like Stephen Moffat as a person. What I've seen him being interviewed. I've never met Stephen, but I just like his general manner. I think Stephen's done as well, isn't he? Joy to the World was possibly the worst thing he's ever written. Stephen's done. Russell's done, whether he knows it or not. Shooty may be done. He may be out. Type 40 Live this Thursday, 8 p.m. YouTube, Rumble, X, and on Facebook. The primary issue with Bad Wolf, in my opinion, says Dalek Lives Matter, is how Unit and other characters are currently portrayed. No one aspires to be these numpties, in contrast to how they were portrayed in the original Who. It's an issue of characterisation, isn't it? The Unit haven't been developed to anywhere near the same extent that the original Unit team had been. I mean, I think the importance of the initial Unit team is slightly exaggerated. But for the kids who lived through it at the time, the presence of Benton, Gates, and the Brigadier, obviously, was a constant. Those characters weren't that developed, but they were a reassuring presence, in context with the TV of the time and that which the series was tasked to do back in the early 70s. Now I think the expectations are different. I think the possibilities are different. I think they're starting to tap into that potential a little. Some of the characters, I think the character of Shirley Bingham's quite interesting. In her quieter moments. I think there's something there. And I'd like to see Kate Stewart kind of salvaged. Because Gemma Redgrave has been consistent. But they've either got to develop her or, just as Vanessa says, just move on. Set the actress free and move on and get somebody else. Get Sean Pertwee in as a replacement, maybe. I don't know. Great idea, isn't it? I know. Dr. Omega is a character who is similar to the Doctor, says Adrian Sherlock. Dr. Omega is the hero of those books. Isn't it? Those, I'd never read any of those in a pink fit, but I know that a lot of people do enjoy them. Yeah. And Adrian adds that he could be wrong, but he thinks that the Nation family were living in the Pacific Palisades. Again, I haven't heard anything since the weekend, since we had Gary Akers over on the Spacebook channel for our live stream on Saturday, our pop culture live stream. I know that there were still people fighting those fires there in California, and obviously awful, absolutely awful. Anybody who's living in that part of America, sincerely, I do hope you and yours are safe and well. I like Stephen Moffat, says Eastland Burkholder. Make sci-fi great again, says Lee Smith. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more with that. Doctor Who is like a vintage wine, says P.T. Rich. It gets better with age. Does it? What do you mean? Doctor Who's like, it gets better with age. Do you mean that the episodes, as they age, you can go back to them and get more out of them? I don't. Yes. Okay. Results may vary. I don't know. I still enjoy the stuff from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the stuff from the 90s. I still enjoy it all. And I do get different things out of all of that than I used to get. So I think that's what he's saying, isn't it? Filmed in Super Mario Nation says, I think Doctor Who should become a bit darker, make it like the Philip Hinchcliffe era, and like Stranger Things. Russell T Davies talked a little about Stranger Things, didn't he, in the run-up to to season 1, about how he wanted Doctor Who to compete in that world, on that in that sort of streaming model, I suppose, to have that kind of profile and impact. And that was part of his reasoning behind taking it to a global streaming platform. Best of intentions and all that didn't really work out that way, did it? But again, this is what I mean about somebody who thinks they know what they want, but have no idea how to achieve it. They've got no understanding of how Stranger Things became as popular as it did and still is. 9 years since Stranger Things debuted, and there's still quite an appetite for it, even though there's been these sort of extended gaps in between series. But yeah, I don't think the people who are making current Doctor Who, they say this stuff, but I don't know, do they do any market research at all? I don't know, because it doesn't look like it. Well, they certainly don't talk to anybody who knows what they're talking about. Gatwas Who is vinegar, says Lex. Vinegar strokes, maybe. What do you mean? Who's Gatwas Who is vinegar? What do you mean? Oh, God. No, you've lost me there. The pub's open. They're open. Bunch of Wally says a Doctor Who with a Hollywood actor that's good would inject, and it would add an injection of interest that's missing. I think them circling someone like Shuta Gatwa wasn't a stupid strategy. Somebody coming off the back of a high-profile show that's current and that has a bigger than cult following, but isn't necessarily mainstream. Them getting somebody like that before they get the big role of their lives and making them a star. That strategy, perfectly sound. It's just in Gatwa they've kind of backed the wrong guy. Or I think it's a mixture of things. I think it's been horrendously mismanaged. I'm not going to keep saying the same thing every time I do one of these shows. But I think it's been a couple of weeks since I've done it, so I'll say it again. He's been really badly mismanaged. But by the same measure, I think he's also lost a certain amount of interest in it. I think he's considered... Shuta Gatwa is Shuta Gatwa first and foremost, and Doctor Who is like second or third down on the list, something like that. I don't think he views it in the same way. This part is a vehicle for him. Whereas if they'd have got Jonathan Bailey off the back of Bridgerton before He got signed up to do stuff like Wicked and the new Jurassic Park film. Jonathan Bailey would have been fantastic. And there are several other actors in these shows. If they get them at the right time, it would really work. The stars would align if they'd listen to one another about how they want to play it, how they see the character, rather than forcing them to wear stupid stuff, telling them what to do and who they represent, and who giving them this false idea of what the show represents and who its audience is. That's what I mean. That's why it worked with Tennant. That's why it worked with Tom Baker. And that's why it worked with William Hartnell. They were very clear about who the show was for. They appealed directly to that individual actor, that instinct that the actor had for the character. And there was that perfect marriage, wasn't there? Of the material with the character, with the performer. And the audience received it, didn't they? Received it, responded. And TV history was made. They became those three standout incarnations. It's no coincidence that the 3 times that they've done that is when it's hit hardest and deepest and made the most indelible mark on the show and on popular culture. Even an American would be better than get. This show is not going to be an hour and a half constantly bashing Shooty Gatwa. We're going to be doing these. I've got no problem with them casting an international talent as Doctor Who. No problem at all. They shouldn't be playing it with their own accents anyway. The Doctor shouldn't have a regional accent, in my opinion. And every time they've lent into that, including with Peter Capaldi, it's been a mistake. The Doctor's not a Scotsman. The Doctor's not a Cockney. The Doctor's not a Northerner. The Doctor's just the Doctor. Have him speak with a regional accent if the actor prefers playing it that way. But don't mention it. It's just how the Doctor talks. It's how this Doctor talks. And I have no problems with them casting an American, an Australian, an Irishman, anybody, really. As long as you can understand what they're saying, I can't see the problem. Okay. John Yoder wants the show to get cancelled as well and give it a long rest. A long rest wouldn't hurt the show. When I say I don't want it to get cancelled, what I mean by that is that I'm not so angry that I just want this show to stop. That I just want it taken off because I'm angry with the people who make it, angry with the show. When I say I don't want it to get cancelled, that's what I mean. I don't think that some time away from the screen would hurt it. If you follow me, it's different. I think to want something cancelled out of anger and frustration and out of revenge is understandable, but it's just not where I'm at. Where you're coming from, John, I can't argue with this. I think it does need a long rest. The British public certainly need to be allowed to miss it again. It needn't be 16 years this time, but it has to be longer than the 2 years they gave it in between Whittaker, in between New Doctor Who and All New Doctor Who, because it was cancelled in 2021. Make no mistake. Okay, we need to do some investigating, don't we, on Phil Morris's story about the Daleks. That could be very interesting indeed. But let me know what you think about the war between the land and the sea, whether you have Disney Plus or not, whether you think that's going to appear before the end of 2025. The Doctor is an intellectual, says Dalek Lives Matter. And Bunch of Wallies would love Travis Fimmel as the Doctor. I think Travis is a great actor. I like him. Michael Sheen as the Doctor, says Michael Key. Sorry, Michael. I know he's a popular choice, and I find the idea of that really dull. But it's like casting Henry Cavill as James Bond. That's the idea. Makes me very, very tired, very, very sleepy. Cosmic Hobo, says Lee Smith. Speak for yourself. And Darren Apken says it needs a rest and a new start with a new team. 5 years off at least. Too much damage has been done. A lot of damage has been done to Doctor Who. Hell of a lot. There's a reason why Eon aren't rushing the next James Bond film into production anytime soon. It's because they want to sit out all of this cultural nonsense. And finally, this comment from Dalek Lives Matter: the Doctor is the constant character. They've made him inconsistent. A very silly idea. Well, they've written him all over the map, haven't they? There's been no clear direction, clear take. Usually, the actor would be permitted to inform and infuse it with how they wanted to play it, and that hasn't happened. TARDIS Spiders in the live chat. Hello, all from the frigid Gulf Coast. What a great word. From the frigid Gulf Coast. Good to see you, TARDIS Spider. I hope you're well. I hope you're looking after yourself, and I hope you're safe as well. But where is the Gulf Coast? I think I always ask you that, don't I? Please forgive me. But, my geography is absolutely awful. I know my way around the Doctor Who universe. Where all the various planets are in relation to one another, way more than I know the geography of the living world. Lots of other people do agree about the long hiatus. I don't think it would do it any harm. You know, John Pertwee, back in the mid-90s, he believed that Doctor Who was done, that there was no point in bringing it back. Remember that quote? I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was adamant. And of course he was wrong. He was wrong. And I think John would have been happy to have been, that he was proven wrong as well. John wasn't a mean-spirited man, was he? But he felt the Doctor Who had its time. Turns out it hadn't. He came back and was glorious for a reasonable length of time. It needn't have stopped when it did, though. Needn't have stopped there. We have to stop here, though. I think enough could be enough for today. God, there's loads I was going to talk about that I haven't got around to talking about. But your New Year resolutions was one of them. Have you got on with yours? Did you make any of them? Have you stuck to them? How's all that going? Let us know. Instagram and X at Type40 Doctor Who, or you can join us in the Type 40 Facebook group. Hit us up with some of that. Beep, buzz us in. Hit us up. All that. Yeah. Filmed in Super Mario Nation says apparently a smuggler's animation is apparently happening to apparentlys. Anika Willis mentioned it at a convention at the weekend. Yes, she did, at the Epsom Playhouse event yesterday. That was Sunday, I believe. Yeah, I'd heard all about this. Probably. They intend on animating them all, so they've got to do something next, haven't they? So the smuggler's next, according to Anika. There you go. Got no reason not to believe her. No reason at all. Yes, I think that does wrap us up this time. Nice to be back. Good to see you all there. Got to work out where. I'm a bit rusty. Got to work out where this goes. Yeah, I'm sure I'll find the right hole to jam it in, won't I? Right after we've had a little bit more of the birthday boy, I think. Should we have a bit more Tom Baker? What do you think?
Let him just look at it.
Where is it? Wait, which one is it?
The whole thing.
What, all that?
Yeah, but not that bit. You've done that bit already. Just the intro and the outro, okay?
Come on. Yeah, all right, yeah. Hello. I'm Tom Baker. Welcome to this special... What do you mean? Which reminds me, have I got time to tell them about the time I was battling Davros on the planet... No. What? What do you mean, no?
Just raise your weight just a little.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Oh, come on, that's how you got the job in the first place.
I must say, he's got a nice light touch. Yeah. Are there going to be many of these?
This is the row of.
When Paul said there are a few
I hope I didn't scare you. Or do you want it more naturalistically? Oh, and what is it now?
Tom Baker at his best there, the birthday boy, 91 years old today. Would you believe it? Roll around so quickly, don't they? Thank you, everybody, for your company on this edition of the show. Tom is, he's fireworks going to be flying for Tom's birthday. What do you think? I think he's probably going to be in bed fairly early, but he'd be glad that we're wishing him well on his birthday. Yeah, of course you would. Of course you would. So let us know what you think of everything I've been speaking about on this edition of the live stream there. So we've had the war between the land and the sea. Are we going to get it this year after all? Why have things changed there too? There's Wallace and Gromit. Yes, so what did you think of Vengeance Most Foul? Hugely popular animated movie from Christmas Day. Did you enjoy it as much as everybody else seemed to? And we'll be back with more ratings talk, I don't doubt, as well. So what's coming up next? What's coming up next? I think it's this. So we've got, let me get it. Where is it? Let me get it up. No, not that. Where are we? Yes, so Type 40 Live back this Thursday from 8 p.m. on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook and X with more of the same, but it's the 200th edition of our live stream magazine show. Lots to talk about and catch up with our panel as ever, but plenty more to be disclosed as well, as befits the 200th edition of the show. Be afraid, be very afraid. Yes, you may well look sheepish, my friend. I look forward to seeing all of you there, I hope, for that, along with a panel of the usual kind of reprobates we drag into that. So be there or not is my advice. It's cold out. Get something warm inside you, just like Christopher Eccleston did with this enormous Yorkshire pudding. That probably slipped down quite nicely. And lots more birthday greetings for Tom Baker there in the live chat. We could listen to him all day. Says, well, thank you very much, Darren. But that is it for this one. I think he could mean Tom Baker, Chris. I'm not bitter. Happy birthday, Tom Baker. And lots more of that there in the live chat. Happy New Year. We'll allow you that one, Ezra Goldstein. One last Happy New Year. Get that in under the wire. And no more, I think. No more, as the War Doctor would say. Let us know how it's going for you, though. It's great to be back. Good to see you all. And look out for more of these live streams popping up before the end of the week, too. There's so much to talk about. I could be back sooner rather than later, in fact, because there is something else I wanted to get into. What do you think of all the nonsense out there? No more. We're going to bring it back. A big day for America, of course, today for the inauguration. So I hope that goes well for you. And our thoughts are with people in California as well, too. Of course they are. But there will be some more of this later in the week. So make sure you stay notified. Click the like and all that jazz. God, I'm getting rusty with this, aren't I? You know what to do and when to do it by now, don't you? But we'll see you back here with more Type 40 and Type 40 Live later this week. You enjoy the rest of your lunch. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.